One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, by the way. Great to see everyone in the chat. All right, so we got a lot to discuss here, as you guys can see from the title. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to cover every single little thing that's on the title, only because there's some stuff that's going to be coming out here, later after the show, after we're done. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to, actually cover some of it until tomorrow. But nonetheless, we have Trump arrives at NATO, and that's one of them. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be able to see the highlights of the summit until tomorrow, right? Then we have Iran strikes ship, and yes, we do have that for you guys. Just happened overnight here. And then Charlie Kirk case, as well as Platner allegations. We got some problems in the UK Parliament as well. There's some crazy shit going on in the world. So, all right. So first, let's go ahead and break down chronologically of what we're going to be discussing this morning. First, we're going to be talking about Graham Platner, accused of sexually assaulting a woman. Not good. Not good. Let's see if there's any details on this. It says, Politico reports a woman who dated Graham Platner claimed he sexually assaulted her. Bill Mullen posted on X, breaking. Politico reports that a Maine woman who dated Graham Platner said he forced her to have sex with her almost 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections. Quote, I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful with me, she said. I remember the specific moment, quote, I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. Platner has immediately posted a video denying the allegations. So we have that story for you guys, obviously, off the top of the rocker there. Then we have Charlie Kirk trial. Prosecution presents case against Tyler Robinson. And yes, I think this is going to be a whole week. Right now it says alleged Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson in Utah court this week. Yeah, and it's supposed to pretty much run all week, by the way. So it's not like we're going to get the answer today or something like that. So, excuse me, I had to cough. And then now we have Cuba blackout. Third nationwide power outage in 6 months. Not good, dude. When it comes down to resources, water, the electrical grid for them, or any of that shit, it's very sad seeing places like Cuba, where they could have made better decisions to where none of this would be happening to them. And so now, unfortunately, the people of Cuba also are struggling in this. And you got to remember, there's millions of people on that tiny, tiny island, And then we have BJ's roof collapse during heavy rain in New Jersey. So I'm sure you guys have been to a BJ's. If you guys are an American, a lot of people have been to BJ's. Nonetheless, video shows a BJ's roof collapse in New Jersey. Oh man, that's no bueno, man. Then we have Trump meets with Turkish president ahead of NATO. Now we do have where it's a bilateral meeting with Trump and the Turkish president, which is great, but it is ahead of NATO, right? And I want to get into NATO's summit, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get a lot of that this morning. Then we have Iran resumes strikes on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And let me go ahead and quickly read this coming out from, it shows Barak Ravid, by the way, sends us in. And it's like a big, whatever. The IRGC fired at least 2 missiles at commercial ships transiting through the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. official told me. The U.S. official said 2 commercial ships were hit and suffered significant damages, but no casualties, which is good, by the way. And so that is pretty much what we're looking at this morning. I know it's a kind of a shorter lineup, but the reason being is that the whole thing with the bilateral meeting with Trump and the Turkish president, it's going to take quite a minute. It's like 26 minutes long. And then we fast forward through it anyways, but it's going to be a healthy amount. So, all right, before we get into the madness, make sure, let's do our call to actions. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen. If you guys are on the vertical side, I very much appreciate it. And it's free to do so. This is what we do Monday through Friday. And then, of course, we have members only on Saturday morning, man. It's a good time. Speaking of members, please consider becoming a member, starting only at $4.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody. But check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, politics. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. We also have a Discord server in the description down below. Make sure you guys go check that out. That's where the invite link is. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen at any time. You can donate to those, and I get 100% of the proceeds. And, of course, we'll read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a normal super chat. So we're on it. All right, we've got our email up where we're going to be always scanning. Good morning to everybody, man. Hopefully you're all enjoying the morning. I definitely know that we are so far. We got Charles Darwin in the building. By the way, we got Carney Vanguard first in this morning. Always appreciate you saying likes for Mike. Absolutely. We got Moto Bomber, Virginia. Yes, sir. Good morning to you guys. Hopefully you're all enjoying the morning. Charles Darwin from Down Under, always appreciate you. Brother VC, my man, good morning. Easy Frank, he says no audio or video. That was before we started the live. We got Sterling, my man, saying good morning, kids from Kentucky. Man, you've already made it out to Kentucky in a pretty quick amount of time. I mean, you must have left fairly early this morning. We got Mr. Al Patterson as well saying good morning, guys and gals. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. Rabbit of Chaos. Always appreciate that. And thank you for your love and support as well. Hey, Mike, good morning. Happy birthday to your beautiful daughter. Thank you for that. Yes, baby V turned 4 years old today. It's a blessing day. Awesome day to be alive. We got Steve Easy in the building as well as Pablo. Appreciate you guys. Good morning. We got Vanguard Critters as well. Always appreciate you guys. Rabbit of Chaos hanging out with us. No Grow. We got CQC. Good morning. I see you in the chat. That's right. We're always trying to have a good day out here. We got chatting with Stacks as well. Good morning. Alleged assassin is right. Shit. Cuba would make a nice U.S. territory. Yeah, that's no kidding, bro. Honestly, their government sucks. And it's weird how the Cuban people that actually live on Cuba, a lot of them actually do agree with their government and what they're doing and stuff like that, which is insane. We got Sick Bastard as well. Good morning to you. Always appreciate you guys. We got David as well, running on down as fast as humanly possible. I'm trying not to leave anybody out here. We got Rebecca. Nice to see you, by the way, from Canada. Always appreciate you too. Barbie coming in with the 22 months, saying all the cool kids are members. Join us Saturdays. That's very true, by the way. And Barbie, I can't thank you enough for the 22 months and for you and your support. And it goes a long way. But yes, the members, it's always a good time. We don't discuss all this craziness that's happening around the world. We actually try to have a good time. That's what it's all about. Let's see. Looks like we're pretty much caught up here. Thank you for that, Barbie. Definitely a big W. All right, let's go and get into this first story here. We're going to be talking about that Graham Platner accused of sexually assaulting a woman. Now, this is going to be a big deal in the media for damn sure, especially because it's a representative, right, of the United States. Oh, you guys can't see
the
it.
main Democratic Senate candidate, Graham Platner. And Platner just put on his X account that he is considering every path forward after this bombshell report. We have this from Bill Malhusian saying, breaking Politico reports that a Maine woman who dated Graham Platner says he forced her to have sex with him almost 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections, saying, quote, I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me. She said, I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. Platner
that's some not very good nomenclature to for this guy coming out of that woman.
Has immediately posted a video denying the allegations, which we just mentioned here. We may play that out in just a little bit. I believe we're going to go and head back out to Utah.
I do want to see that video.
Are we going to go ahead and play this video out?
Play the video.
Okay, we are going to play. We have the video pulled up.
Good. Thank you,
producer's
guys.
trying to pull this up right now. It's starting to load. Here we go. Okay, it is about ready to go. So let's go ahead and pull out this.
And I'm always skeptical when things are years later. You're right, Steve Easy, and I'm glad that you pointed that out as well. This is 5 years later, okay? 5 years ago, apparently this happened, right? Well, why are you saying it now? Why weren't you saying it back then? What I mean, or maybe even like maybe I would grant like maybe a month, maybe 2 months or something like that, but 5 years? Yeah, no, it's automatic skeptic, or skepticism you have to go with this kind of shit, because accusations are exactly that, accusations.
Video statement with Graham Platner right now.
Consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I've been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into.
Uh-oh, that's their side.
I want to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I've been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different.
And what's up, Chasing Ghost? Good morning to you, by the way, as well.
One that puts the interest of people over corporations is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus.
Democrats run grassroots campaigns? Shit, I didn't know that.
On defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy, to take back our power, and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated. And we will use every tool at our disposal to do so. As Maine go.
That is brutal. And look, they played it off his Twitter. They played it right off his Twitter, and they didn't mean to show that.
That video, again, you just saw there, Graham Platner saying that they are going to be taking the time to reflect on the best path forward and saying that the allegations are categorically false and inaccurate based off the reporting from Politico. Now, we want to go ahead and read off some of that Politico article to you right here, saying that a woman who dated Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Platner says he...
Which you guys just heard that. We don't need him to repeat that. We just heard him say that, like 3 minutes ago.
When it comes to the race for Maine Senate, that is a very key race in the upcoming election that is coming up. It's one of the few opportunities Democrats have in a state that's going to be key for Democrats if they want to flip that seat and take back the Senate. And here's the initial tweet from Politico saying a woman who dated Graham Platner says he sexually assaulted her, and she says, I just want the truth out there. I just want people to have a whole scope of who he is as a person. She said that of the Maine Democrat who has faced a string of scandals over past offensive online comments and accusations of mistreating women. Platner responded by saying, these allegations are troubling, serious, and false. Any accusations of non-consensual behavior is categorically untrue.
Well, he's saying it's not true. So, nonetheless, well, if it ends up ever making it into any type of court, that's where you'll hear more about that. I'm sure. I'm sure you're going to hear more like just talk about it, but actual seeing movement of like a case like that. Yeah, I mean, it's got to go to court if you want to see any actual difference there. All right, first, let's go ahead and get into, speaking of court, by the way, we're going to go ahead and get into this Charlie Kirk trial. Prosecution presents case against Tyler Robinson. That happened yesterday, by the way. It was a big deal. There was a lot going on. And this whole case is going to take, I mean, this part is going to take a week. So it's gonna take a long time. I think they plan on ending this on like Friday.
Let's be joined right now here on Live Now
or
from Fox
Thursday
criminal
or
defense
something.
attorney, friend of the program, Nicole DeBoard. Nicole, they're just presenting the evidence, giving a lay of the land so the judge can see if there's enough. And that seems like an obvious statement. What did we learn today and how will they proceed?
Well, I think that you're totally right. I don't think that there's any question that this judge will find that there's ultimately enough evidence for this case to proceed ultimately to court. However, this is not part of the process that can just be skipped over. The prosecution still has to go through the steps.
Right. This is just figuring out if they're going to move to the next step with court. Yeah.
Required by law to demonstrate that they do have the evidence which will allow them to bring this case to trial. And today we actually got to have a peek at some of the evidence that we can expect ultimately to see in a trial at some point, including that there may be an alternate firearm that wasn't clearly investigated. We know that there was a sniper pad, at least according to the detective who gave testimony in this case. And we have some idea about who witnesses might be ultimately against Robinson in this trial.
And you mentioned that they have to go through these proper procedures. They have to treat it as it is important, which it is. The defense is talking about it, and they said the man on the roof pushing back that it was even Tyler Robinson himself. How much?
Right. That's the accusation. Well, that's the claim right now is that this man is totally innocent and it wasn't even him. Right. So that's the way the defense is going to play it.
For the defense attorney to push back on that, but also know that DNA potentially could be coming up that will link that together.
Now, I wonder what kind of DNA that they are specifically gathering and how they gathered that DNA. That's what I also want to know.
Look, it's a death penalty case. This team must absolutely do everything they possibly can to make sure that this evidence is scrutinized carefully by the courts. That means they have to listen carefully. They have to be there to let the judge do his job as a potential gatekeeper in terms of allowing only evidence before ultimately the jury that hears this case, which is admissible and reliable under the law. So this defense team has to do everything in their power to make sure that they are carefully scrutinizing the evidence in this case and raising objections at every turn.
And they seemingly did on every single piece of evidence.
What's up, brother GEG? Good morning to you, kind sir.
Today, the judge, Tony Graff, also said they were allowing that video, but it wouldn't be available for the media. He watched it himself, kind of turning off the microphones. What did he decide in that moment? Why did he decide that?
So the judge was looking at the evidence that the prosecutors were showing him to say, look, we do have enough evidence for this case to go to trial. And the judge wanted to view it for himself to be able to make a determination as to whether or not it was relevant to whether or not the prosecution could present a case and whether or not it was the kind of evidence which would be reliable in making a determination that there is reason to believe that Tyler Robinson is the right person to be on trial in this matter, which he was.
Okay, so it's confirmed right here. It's a 5-day preliminary hearing. And so, yes, they plan on this ending on Friday.
Able to do by watching that video.
And he said it also wasn't made available or shown because it wasn't redacted enough. Is there a level of redaction that we might eventually get to see some of it?
I think that we will ultimately get to see some of this. It's for a variety of reasons, not really necessarily the right thing to do to have this video be released to the public at this time.
Welcome back, Charles.
This is just a preliminary hearing. And again, the point of this hearing is to determine whether or not there is sufficient evidence for the case to proceed to trial.
Right.
This is not a time
to actually try him
when someone will be judged guilty or not guilty. In other words, Tyler Robinson is not going to be found guilty or not guilty at the conclusion of this hearing. It is simply a hearing to determine whether or not there's enough for the prosecution to move forward in this case at this time.
And we know that when.
Right. So at least you guys know that that is happening. We don't necessarily need her to just keep rambling the same thing that we just heard right there. Cause I guarantee you it'll just circle back to essentially what she just said there. Kind of always, because right now it's going to be speculation how it comes out Friday. And then it would be speculation if she speaks about if it does go forward and how that's going to be tried, or how it's going to work out. We don't know, right? So of course we follow these stories, and we do our best to cover everything that happens regarding these kind of things. We don't necessarily need analysts or other attorneys that are not involved in the case to give their expertise, because we just don't need it. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Cuba for a minute. Cuba blackout. There was another blackout. Third nationwide power outage in 6 months. Yeah. Fuck. That's just. Could you imagine where your entire nation goes black? Now, of course, granted, it's a little island, and all that shit. But just imagine that the whole place, the whole island, just fucking goes. That's got to suck, man. People don't really do well without electricity and modernity. Maybe 2,000 years ago, even just fucking 200 years ago, 300 years ago, when no electricity and all that shit, people learned how to deal with life. There's ways to survive that. But unfortunately, today's modernity, people don't know how to deal without electricity. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know either. You know what I mean? I was born in 1995, and that's technology. There's electricity, there's the internet, at this point, yeah, I don't think I could survive without it that well anyways. But yeah, I think I'm smart enough to keep myself cool enough and eat food and stuff like that. But you know what I mean?
A total collapse of the energy grid in Cuba, leaving the nation in an expansive blackout. The country's grid operator said it's investigating right now the cause of it, as officials working to restore that energy and also activating emergency microsystems that power vital areas. This from Bloomberg, talking about Cuba's electrical grid suffered a total collapse Monday as the nation struggles with crumbling infrastructure and a de facto U.S. oil.
Yes, and they're going to use that to their advantage, Sterling. By the way, he's talking about the Charlie Kirk case. Unfortunately, there isn't a very good in the moment when, in the whole case kind of thing, where you get a real vivid view of his face, of him doing him pulling the trigger on the top of the roof or whatever. That a lot of the surveillance is from afar. You really can't make out much of that, you know what I mean? But there is some images that show his facial structure and stuff like that, but from afar. Yes, you're correct.
Blockade that is,
and the defense is going to use that. The defense is going to use that to their advantage.
To the brink. And this is actually a live picture right now in Havana, in Cuba. It is nighttime, but the blackout very much present. Let's be joined right now by Rick De La Torre, a former CIA officer. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We've seen blackouts before in Cuba. Is this one any different?
Well, look, the immediate blackout is the symptom. The disease is 65 years of economic mismanagement. Cuba isn't dealing with an isolated power outage. It's dealing with the slow collapse of an electrical system that the regime has neither the money nor the technical capacity to rebuild.
Steve Posey, good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat, my man.
And obviously, we talked about them searching for an issue, what the cause of it is, but also restoring the power. How long could this take, just based on that decades-old infrastructure?
Well, it could take. It could certainly take anything from days to weeks. This stuff has been living on borrowed life now for decades, and so this didn't happen overnight.
Yes, I do believe I remember seeing that video of him walking up the stairs, where you can see from a high corner shot. Yeah, I do remember that.
Most of Cuba's thermoelectric plants are decades old. Many of them date back to the Soviet era. Maintenance has been deferred for years because the government simply doesn't have the hard currency to buy the parts, fuel, or modern equipment. Every time one major generating unit fails, it pushes the rest of the grid just a little bit closer to complete collapse. So the regime will blame sanctions or hurricanes or bad luck, but those factors create challenges, no doubt. But they don't explain why Cuba's infrastructure has been allowed to deteriorate for.
Right. If you look at the infrastructure, the actual grid for Cuba and what they actually use, we use very old technology here in the United States, but we have done. That's what the skeleton is very old, but we have done some decent upgrades to the grid over the years. And that's what it does take that. And especially if you have old bones like that. And unfortunately, they just have not really invested any infrastructural upgrades for their grid over there in Cuba. It's mismanagement of monies. It's a mismanagement of government. It's just all of it. It's fucked.
And fuel has been running out across Cuba since January when the president threatened tariffs on any country that sells or provides oil to the nation. How much are sanctions, though, a part of this?
Well, I mean, the sanctions have always kind of pre-existed.
It's the trade embargo.
What's happening now, and they always continue to have these electrical failures. What kept them afloat for a long time,
is it Steve Posey? Shit, I didn't hear that.
Time was free Venezuelan oil, but that's been obviously
no. What it is that I think that you heard, it must be, well, unless I didn't hear about something, but you may be referring to Mamdani talking about how, because it's so hot, it was actually part of the hottest part of the United States for a minute. Mamdani had asked everybody to set their thermostat to 78 so they don't overpower the grid. That's why that happened. And maybe they did lose power. I'm sure they probably did to an extent. We got Carrie in the building. Shout out to you, by the way. Good morning to you.
Turned off. So now that they're left to their own devices, you're seeing the entire system start to start to collapse around them. A modern economy cannot function without reliable electricity, and those factories shut down. That means that they're not producing. When hotels can't operate consistently, well, then they're not going to get any visitors. So the entire economy starts to spiral out. The water pumping systems start to fail. That means that hospitals must rely on generators, and investors are going to start looking elsewhere because nobody is going to invest serious capital where the lights may go out at any moment.
I wanted to ask you about that indirect consequences because it's the electricity now.
Oh, Steve Posey, some of the clapback responses that Mamdani got on people asking people to set their thermostat to 78 was hilarious. I mean, you should go look at the comments, bro. I mean, it's just insane. It's so great. Look at the reshares.
It might lead to other impacts later. What else is out there that this blackout might impact the most?
Dragon Classy, good morning.
Well, obviously, the most is the everyday Cuban on the street that has to deal with sweltering Caribbean summers without any air conditioning or relief. But like I mentioned, right, the electrical grid is the same thing that will function in hospitals and schools and traffic lights and everything that we take for granted in any functioning country or economy.
Right, and modernity. That's what I would say. I think a lot of different civilizations around the globe would suffer if their grid went completely out. Like if you had a blackout in Europe, I don't think that they would do super, super, super well.
If those things aren't working,
just like other places, I don't think that. I mean, Australia, any type of Western civilization, as well as even some of the third world countries,
then the people are just back in the Stone Ages again.
Have we heard from the Cuban government about any other nations in the Caribbean set to help out in
come
any
and
way?
change it?
This just happened, but is anybody there to throw them a lifeline?
Well, it's not a matter of throwing them a lifeline. If there's no system in place to manage that lifeline, right? If the infrastructure investments aren't there to keep things going, then it's just money down the toilet. And obviously, the communist regime there doesn't have any of the hard currency or capability to purchase things on their own.
I haven't asked you guys to do it yet, but VC is absolutely correct. Listen, man, do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. We have over 100 people in here between both the live streams. Let's get the likes up. I very much appreciate it. And here we go.
So what that means is that they're really, really stuck until they recognize that there has to be some significant fundamental changes in their economic model that will then loosen, the investor world and U.S. policy towards Cuba. None of that stuff's going to really occur. No other country is just going to give them barrels of oil, unlike what they used to get from Venezuela.
I want to ask you about that, the sanctions, even if they were taken away and there is not a lot of support for that.
And that's true. When Maduro was, over there in charge of Venezuela or whatever the case is with Venezuela, before homie got snatched by the United States, he used to give Cuba basically not free. I think there was some sort of agreement there where we'll give you oil and whatever. There was some sort of small agreement, but Venezuela definitely helped Cuba a lot on the oil front. But now that Maduro is no longer in charge, they've been cut off.
An influx of oil, would that actually have
a substantial
benefit?
Well, it certainly should. And let's be clear about a few things, too. The United States should continue supporting the Cuban people with humanitarian.
Oh, wow. Sterling Wheel says 80% of Cuba's power grid is powered by petrochemicals. Sanctions are to blame as well as infrastructure. Absolutely. Sanctions definitely have done that. And of course, the embargo that they put over Cuba, there's no doubt that's going to be a big reason why they're not going to be able to keep up on their grid right now. It may not just be a failure. It may be just a lack of petrochemicals, a lack of oil, right? Whatever, however they run else the grid. But yes, absolutely, you're correct about that. That has definitely dampened their entire economy. And I mean, also, like we were talking about recently, yesterday, we were talking about money conversion. Look up $1 US to their dollar. That's also a mind-blowing number.
Assistance certainly where appropriate, but you should not mistake humanitarian relief or an economic bailout of this regime. Any long-term investment should require transparency, accountability, protection for private capital, and some meaningful economic reform. So, there's certainly something there to be said about, Cuba coming into the 21st century and adopting an economic model that respects, the free market capitalism and foreign investment, but also one that respects the will of the people and open elections, freedom of the press, all the things that we expect from a neighbor here in our hemisphere. So once that happens, that is the best signal possible for any investor international.
My last question before I let you go, because Monday the blackout commenced. How long does it have to last before the conversations start to change to something more dire?
Well, look, I think the electrical grid has become a barometer for state capacity. When a government can't keep the lights on, citizens inevitably begin questioning whether it can be governed at all. That then leads to those kinds of pressures that Havana doesn't.
Of course, there's going to be a lot of internal pressure from their people.
Want to see, and that is the people on the street demanding those kinds of reforms right now. So this could be something that could lead to something better. As for this particular blackout, who knows? This may be the last and final straw of a failing system that was just should have been retired decades ago and has only been living on lifelines.
Yeah, obviously.
All right. So we're fairly caught up now on Cuba and what's going on over there. Before we get into Iran and what's going on regarding that, we do have a couple of things we got to get to first. BJ's roof collapse during heavy rain in New Jersey. Let's go ahead and bring this up. And also, what we haven't done yet is the money part. Let's just get the money part over with, and then we'll get on.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Now that is actual factuals, ladies and gentlemen. Send in your money. All right, let's go ahead and get it into BJ's here and see why or how much damage there was on this.
Going to get to some of the other big stories that we are covering here at this hour, and one of them takes us over to New Jersey, where wild video is coming out of a BJ's wholesale club, where as you can see inside of the store.
Oh shit! Oh, that was bad, dude.
Is coming out of a BJ's wholesale club, where, as you can see inside of the store, the roof comes crashing down on shoppers. This is because of that heavy rain, the severe storms that have been in that area. Right now, I do want to bring in Bane Froney over at Fox.
Sterling puts out right now $1 is 24 Cuban pesos. Interesting. That seems like a better ratio than I was expecting. Huh. Interesting.
Whether she is live for us in Oakhurst, New Jersey, and it looks like, Bane, you're outside of that BJ's. That is crazy video that we're looking at.
It's terrifying. I mean, imagine just trying to go to the grocery store and all of a sudden the roof is collapsing, and that's what happened to 27 people. Now, thankfully, no one was injured.
Yes, BJ's, and it's a restaurant. BJ's is bomb, bro. It's actually fairly good. You know, I wouldn't say it's bomb, but I would say it's fairly good. It's a decent place to eat.
There were 2 people that got kind of stuck in the debris, but they were able to get themselves out. And officials are saying no injuries were reported, which is the great news. But around 11 o'clock yesterday, that is when they got reports of a partial roof collapse from this wholesale club just behind me. Now, obviously, the scene looks very different now. Nearly 24 hours later, conditions are a lot drier. It's not pouring rain like it has been on and off for days on end here in the Northeast, but the rain does continue on a little bit farther north. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I mean, again, touching more on what was happening here just yesterday, we were seeing just intense amount of rain throughout the New Jersey area, up and down along the.
Yeah. So the upstairs, it's a 2-story thing. It looked like it was. BJ's like collapsing on top of them.
Jersey Shore as well, where
That's
folks
what
are
it
trying to
looks
enjoy
like.
America 250, the
That's a
long
market.
weekend for a lot of people, and it just kind of completely rained out.
Maybe it's a completely different type of BJ's. Maybe it's not the. Well, I saw the BJ's logo. I think when on the outside view, it looked like a 2-story thing. Like places like Huntington Beach have that shit all over the place, in downtown and Main Street.
Yesterday, we were seeing rain rates up to 2 inches per hour with some of these storms. That is intense. Now, within the past 24 hours, areas near here picked up over nearly 5 inches of rain within just 24 hours. Hence why we did end up seeing that roof collapsing, just because of how much rain we ended up seeing in some of these areas throughout the Jersey line.
So there's the BJ. There's BJ's restaurant, and then there's BJ. Is a small version of Costco. There's actually like a shop, okay, interesting. Didn't know that.
Of the Jersey.
I actually legitimately didn't know that.
Sure. Now, it wasn't just the spot that we saw some structural problems. We also did get a couple more reports of some more damage going on from the flooding. And of course, many videos coming out of yesterday too, along the roadways. A dangerous situation for people to be driving around. There were multiple flooded interstates and roads reported from yesterday throughout this area. On top of this too, there were multiple water rescues also reported from yesterday along the Jersey Shore. So just a scary situation for so many folks to start off the work week here. Now, what was going on is we basically had this front just sagging south and just sitting there, allowing these storms to just regenerate over and over again throughout the day. It was slowly making its way across the Northeast. And those storms, I mean, they were just training each other over and over again. Hence why we had so many intense rain rates and so much rain in some spots. Like I mentioned before, there were areas that picked up close to 5 inches of rain near the Jersey Shore. A little bit farther up north, there were some spots that picked up even more than that throughout New York.
Okay, so I just looked it up because I'm like, what the fuck, yo? Okay, so what it is, it's BJ's restaurant / brew house. That's what I've always known BJ's to be. I didn't know that they actually had a department, like a warehouse store. I didn't know that about them. I thought they were just a restaurant chain.
Pennsylvania as well. Now, for the Northeast, it is not over quite yet. We still have more rain on the way. That's going to be a little bit more north, though, probably more so towards Boston area, Massachusetts, as well as into the New England area later on this morning and throughout the afternoon. So we still have that flood potential going on. A good 2 to 3 inches, pretty widespread, will be possible for folks throughout the Northeast as we continue throughout the rest of the day today. Now, for folks throughout Jersey and also into New York, Pennsylvania, and farther south near the DC area too, we still have a chance for some of those gloomier skies like we're seeing right now, isolated showers, but not nearly as much rain as we saw from yesterday. But it just goes to show, Josh, how powerful Mother Nature truly is and how impactful rain can be, and the power of water truly is significant and can be terrifying. So we have to be incredibly careful when it comes to these intense rain rates. When we get flash flood warnings, take those seriously, get off the roadways. You don't want to be out and about when we start to see rain this intense impacting your area. So just a good reminder, again, thankfully, no one was injured within this BJ's. And looking behind me now, we've been seeing a couple of vehicles, emergency vehicles coming in and out, trying to get ready to probably just potentially get a lot of that structural impact out of there and try and fix up as much as they can.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big collapse. There's going to be some serious damage there all the way around. So there's going to be a cleanup crew that's going to be coming through there. Okay, so Trump meets with Turkish president ahead of NATO. This is as of just 2 hours ago. And today is the summit, the first day start of the summit over there for NATO. They're doing that over there in Turkey. And unfortunately, we're not going to get that footage for you guys this morning because it's going to be going on today. So we'll see. We'll be covering the highlights of it tomorrow. But nonetheless, we do have this, though. Trump meets with Turkish president ahead of NATO here. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Here we go.
We really do. We've had right from the beginning good chemistry. We've had a very special relationship. Turkey has become, under the president, a very powerful country militarily. People don't know how powerful, actually. They have a lot of our equipment, and they have a lot of great soldiers, and they really are somebody to be reckoned with. And the nice part.
Oh yeah, same here. By the way, Steve. Yeah, it's been like a week-long deal.
Is that because of the relationship that we have, it's all gone very well. I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for the president, and I think it's really to the benefit of both countries. We're going to be talking today about trade. We're going to be talking about other things having to do with the military, lots of different things. Probably we'll mention Iran, where we have essentially decimated their military. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And we're going to have some very good discussions, but we do a lot of trade with Turkey. We make great things and they make great things. And we've had a very, very...
Man, Turkey is they talk out both sides of their mouth. They're fence sitters always, but they actually aren't actual fence sitters. It's kind of funny how they lean.
Very big impact on both of our countries. So I just want to tell you that it's an honor to be with you, and we're going to have a lot of good meetings. We're going to have good dinners, good food. We're going to have a good time, but mostly we're going to have a lot of work, and we're going to do good things for our countries. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Sayın Cumhurbaşkanım, tamamına kadar geldiniz. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Real quick, we got Joker in the building. Shout out to you, by the way.
Ben çok uzun süren bir dostluğumuz var biliyorsunuz. Son derece saygı duyduğum.
So right now he's doing the translation, what Trump just said, and to tell him now.
Olduğu bir insansınız. Buradaki buluşmalarımızda, görüşmelerimizde 3 konudan var.
I'll fast forward.
It's a decision we're going to.
President, are you going to sell F-35s to Turkey, and what about the legal restrictions?
Well, it's a decision we're going to make. We have a very good relationship. I would think that many people, I can tell you, many people, including the people sitting right here, thinks, why wouldn't we do that? We have a better relationship with Turkey, and Turkey's been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal.
Now that is very much a fact, by the way. Turkish firearms, yeah, they're stellar.
So yeah, it's something certainly we would consider. It's a great plane. It's the best, currently the best plane by far.
They're talking about the F-35 right now.
And it's certainly something we will consider, yeah. Yes, Daniel, please. You never know why a relationship is special. Some people you get along with, and some people you don't. Sometimes you get along with the toughest people, like him, and sometimes you don't get along with the weakest, most pathetic people. You just don't get along. Maybe you don't respect them, but from the day we met, we got along. We had a pastor, as I remember, his name was Pastor Brunson, and it was a very big thing, and it was very traumatic. He was sentenced to a long-term prison sentence, and I felt he was innocent, and I called. Other people called. They got nowhere. I called the president, and he released him immediately. That was something that the evangelical community will never forget, and because he was a good man, Pastor Brunson. So, just things like that. We just it's always worked out, and I think it's been from the very beginning, from the first moment. I said it before. It's a chemistry that works between us. There are those that I don't have a good chemistry with. I will tell you that, and we work that out too. Say it.
Are further troop drawdowns in Europe likely? And are you satisfied with the progress that NATO allies have
Well,
made?
we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada.
Hell yeah, Pablo. I'll definitely got to make my way over to Facebook Messenger because I actually don't use Facebook like that as a main platform, but I will go check that.
Etc. But to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us.
VC, it's very, I wish they could mute the mic over there somehow. You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty simple to just mute. I mean, because she's just whispering into his ear right there, right? She's doing the translation live on the spot. Usually, sometimes when you have these where the translation happens, sometimes they will have little translators in their ear. Sometimes they'll have, in between every so often, Trump says 2 sentences and then it gets translated and then goes back to him. And so it's interesting how they do the translations worldwide.
And they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the prime minister, I guess he's
it is
no longer
annoying.
there. Maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, no, we'll help after the war is over. I said, I don't need that kind of help. We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. and that's okay. But, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about almost $1 trillion. I mean, it was like what, $996 billion that we spent with NATO last year alone.
Türkiye ile Suriye arasında Türkiye'de efendim.
İran'daki savaşın sona erdirilmesi için oldukça çaba sarf ettiniz. Müzakere süreci devam ediyor ancak nihai bir anlaşma noktasına gelinmiş değil. Bundan sonraki süreçte Türkiye nasıl adım atacak İran ve ABD arasındaki müzakere sürecinin olumlu bir şekilde neticelenmesi için?
And we're not going to play much more of this, by the way. We're getting a little bit of the questions, and we'll hear the translation of this here in a second.
Bu süreçte yine aynı şekilde bizler İran-Amerika ilişkilerini nasıl bir düzleme kavuştururuz? Onun gayreti içerisindeyiz. Elimizden geleni yapmak suretiyle.
I don't know the answer to that, Steve Easy. I'll have to look into that.
Dünya barışına bir adım atalım diye gerek şahsım gerek arkadaşlarım hep birlikte çalışacağız.
Sormak isterim ben sizlere. 80 bine yakın insan hayatını kaybetti Gazze'de. Çok büyük bir yıkım var. Ateşkes sağlandı ama yer yer ihlaller devam ediyor. Ateşkes ihlallerinin önlenmesi için, insani yardımların Gazze'ye gelebilmesi için, ayrıca Gazze'nin yeniden inşa edilebilmesi için önümüzdeki süreçte ortak atabileceğiniz adımları değerlendirecek misiniz muhatabınıza? Müsaade buyururlarsa kendisinin de bu konudaki fikirlerini almak isteriz. Teşekkür ederim.
Özellikle Gazze konusunda tabii değerli dostumla.
Man, it would be nice to get some sort of translation on the screen or something when they're doing this.
Ticari anlaşmalar da.
But it's live. I mean, it's really hard to get that. So they're asking now. They had Trump go, and now they're basically focusing on the Turkish prime minister over here, or president. I mean, all right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's get into this whole Iran resumes strikes on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. This coming out just an hour ago, and it is, as you guys can see up there, Iran strikes ship, and it's actually striking 2 ships. It was 2 commercial ships were hit and suffered significant damage, but no casualties, which is good. But let's go ahead and bring this up and figure out what's going on. First, actually, we need to embrace our fuck-ups. Let's go ahead and do that real quick.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck-ups when you have tomorrow's fuck-ups to look forward to? You are a fuck-up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
We're always embracing the process over here. All right, let's go and bring this up. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bam.
This post coming in from Barack Ravid. He is, of course, over at Axios here and has been providing a lot of information over the course of the last several months. Iran has now apparently resumed firing at ships in the Strait of Hormuz, once again, appearing to violate the Memorandum of Understanding with the U.S. That includes earlier today when the British military says a tanker was struck while traveling off the coast of Oman. Now, the ship reportedly carrying natural gas from Qatar at the time. The IRGC has warned that all oil tankers moving through the strait must use the approved routes, adding that interference by U.S. forces in the strait, quote, will be met with a rapid and decisive.
Yeah, no, I agree with this wholeheartedly. Fuck NATO, fuck the UN.
Action. Amid that threat from Iran, Iran's foreign minister is also saying that threats will no longer be accepted and could lead to the end of the Memorandum of Understanding and, of course, to the end of those negotiations altogether. The remarks come amid the days-long funeral for former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who was targeted and killed by the joint U.S.
What's up, Brother 13? Good morning to you, by the way. Great to see you in the chat.
Israeli strikes that launched Operation Epic Fury. While several of Khamenei's sons have attended the service, I can tell you that Mashtaba, who is the current supreme leader, was noticeably absent. Mashtaba has not been seen since the strike that killed his father, with speculation continuing about his condition as well as his...
Yes, of course. And we've been following that as well since the very beginning. We've been following all these stories from the beginning. So we're waiting to hear the end result and or just the updates as they come out. So, of course, anything regarding the new Ayatollah over there, the successor, unfortunately, we haven't seen or heard from him on camera or anything yet. So.
Jonathan Saye with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy has been following all of this here and is joining us to help kind of break down everything, all the latest developments. Thank you so much, Jonathan, as always, for taking the time to be here with us today.
Hi, Josh. Great to be with you again.
And I have to ask you first off about the...
I like how he's the way that he said that. It almost sounded like he was a robot.
Situation that
Jonathan does an actual decent job at reporting facts, which I do also appreciate. But when he gets into his opinion pieces is when he's kind of like a lot, L take.
I was just mentioning over in the Strait of Hormuz, because as I mentioned here, essentially it sounds as though Iran is once again firing at those ships, actually striking one of them as well. So what does that tell us? What could this potentially lead to as the negotiations are kind of stalled?
Well, it is, of course, not the Islamic Republic's first time violating the ceasefire and this fragile truce, but there are two factors here. One is timing, and two, the target itself. This happened as soon as the Islamic Republic finalized the former supreme leader's funeral in the capital of Tehran. Now, the funeral, of course, is going to go on in different cities, some in Iran and some in Iraq.
Yeah, I think it's a week-long funeral.
But it was very important for the regime not to initiate hostilities as the main, day of the funeral was ongoing, so they can save face in front of their support base internally, so they can project calm and stability. In addition to that is the target itself. It was most likely a Qatari tanker, and it was carrying natural gas, I believe, and it was going through the Strait of Hormuz, but the route closer to Oman. So the Islamic Republic, on one hand, is again signaling that ships cannot pass the strait without crossing the territorial waters that are closer to Iran, so they can toll them easier. In addition to that, looking at the fact that it was a Qatari tanker also signals the same sign that in this context, the Islamic Republic, even though has very friendly relationships with Doha, nonetheless does not, factor that in when it comes to blocking or throttling the flow of goods in the Strait of Hormuz.
Absolutely. I mean, they can be somewhat friendly, but not get their way, of course. That's no doubt. Real quick, because all of you guys, well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of you guys have been talking about the sandwich, man.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Shit. Welcome in, Baked Bizquick, by the way. Good morning to you.
I want to pop this up on your screen. The shot actually just went away, but we do have that shot over in Turkey as we're waiting for the arrival of President Trump there at the NATO summit. I have to imagine that that is going to be probably the biggest topic of conversation there, considering President Trump has been upset with NATO over their maybe lack of participation there in the war with Iran.
Rightfully so. And I know some critics bring up the fact that maybe this was more of an offensive war against the Islamic Republic. Still does not change the fact that even though the Islamic Republic was the target of a joint U.S. and Israeli strike because of numerous reasons that we talked about, weaponization concerns, ballistic missiles, and support for terrorism, the campaign was between the Islamic Republic, Jerusalem, and Washington. But what Iran did and reacted to, in theory, should have dragged in NATO, but they refrained to respond. Iran fired at Turkey, which is a NATO state. Iran targeted British bases in Cyprus, again, another example. And we saw that the ballistic missiles were able to reach London as they were able to reach Diego Garcia. But still, there was no firm response, or dare I say any response from NATO, not to mention the fact that European countries continue to be the first entities that are implicated by any form of oil.
Oh, shit. I actually got two, y'all. Man, you guys went ham in the last quarter, or I guess the last 10th of the show. Always appreciate you guys, by the way. So quickly, let me go ahead and make a big special shout out to first Virginia Chaos coming in on the Cash App for the 5 spot, saying the money part told me to. That's a big W, by the way. Brother Virginia Chaos, I can't thank you enough for making it rain in the Cash App, my man. And then, of course, real quick, we got Joker in the building, my man. Thank you very much for sending the 20 spot on the PayPal. He says, this is from Joker Smoker. Next one's on me. Well, W, bro. You know I'm going to get down with my bad self. Come on, you know the deal. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that. It goes a long way. So here we go. Cheers to you, by the way. All right. Here we go.
Disruption when it comes to the oil flows, and the threat coming from the regime in Tehran directly also threatens the continent in a sense that the drones and missiles used by Russia are supplied from the regime in Tehran, yet we did not see a firm stance. Had Europeans treated the Islamic Republic the same way they did the regime in Russia, the situation would be much more different. Tehran knows that, and that's what they're capitalizing on. They're really doubling down on this anti-American growing sentiment around the world, and that has benefited them.
Hell yeah, Steve. You're a fucking legend, bro. He says, I'm poor as fuck, but dollar dues cut. Absolutely. My man making it rain in the fucking chat. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, bro.
To an extent, when they talked about tolling
dues are paid,
Europeans showed almost no objection to that, maybe up until recently.
As we kind of watch, I say this all the time, but we watch these developments that are coming in and we get new information pretty much on a regular basis coming into our newsroom. You and I always kind of discuss this here, but what are specifically you watching for from President Trump as he speaks there in Turkey? He's going to make many comments and likely take questions from.
Yeah, VC is known for me to miss his donations. I mean, it's my own fuck up, honestly, but he will send them in little at the end, and sometimes I do miss them. It does happen, and I feel terrible when that shit happens too.
Borders there. So specifically as it relates to Iran, what are you going to be watching for?
Weird.
The president
right,
recently noted that regime change for now is not on the agenda, but again, he referenced the term finishing the job in Tehran. And that's what the Islamic Republic is eyeing very closely, how the United States or NATO as a whole is going to react to continued acts of not only provocation, but deliberate violations of the ceasefire agreement, the MOU itself. Looking at the MOU once again, I was rereading it, ensuring that.
Of course, and we have the MOU. We covered the MOU extensively. I mean, read every point that we possibly could. It's actually right here. Here's 1 through 4, and then here's 5 through 8. Then 9 through 13, and then 14 at the very bottom here at the next one. So yes, we have gone through the MOU, and I fucking hate the MOU. I mean, and every bit of it. I mean, the language and the verbiage even bothered me. The way that we had to do everything immediately, and yet, you know, Iran over there, the IRGC gets to get 30-day leeway. Well, we'll just take your time getting it. But what we need to move immediately, but you go ahead and just take your time, drag your feet.
Maybe I missed something, but there was no mention as to what route was supposed to be taken by international vessels for the Islamic Republic not to target them. And they had agreed not to throttle the strait, and we see them violated. In this case, again, with no provocation, they were fully the aggressors this time around. So I'm looking to see how the president is going to send a signal to Tehran that this behavior, or I guess this lack thereof of behavior change, is going to have repercussions for the Islamic Republic. That's going to be critical. And of course, we're all very closely listening to whether the technical negotiations are going to yield any results, whether Iran is going to allow access to the enriched sites, sites for enriching uranium.
Right, which as of right now, until we get some sort of actual deal in play, which is, I don't think, in grasp anytime soon. But when a deal comes in play, yes, that's when I would assume, I mean, you know what they say about assuming, but I would assume that, yes, they would allow the inspectors back in. They already have a connection with these guys. It would be essentially the same people that got once as soon as Trump pulled out of the JCPOA. That's it's just going to be the same people that go right back in. They have a connection with them. So
satellite imagery showing that Iran has again.
But the deal is not going to end up happening anytime soon, is basically what I'm getting at. Real quick, Steve Easy is pointing out something very important. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. Listen, we've got well over 100 people in here. Let's get up the likes, man. We definitely appreciate it.
I don't know if that was perhaps discussed with Washington, or is that going to be a unilateral thing from the Islamic Republic. So those two pillars in conjunction are going to be critical in the next week or so.
And one thing that you and I discussed, I would say it was about a week ago, and really over the past several months, we've kind of touched on it here, is executions that are taking place. People who are sentenced there to death, talking protesters, demonstrators in Iran who are against the current Iranian regime. And I'm going to pop this up on your screen right here. This is coming in from the Israel War.
Real quick before we hear this report from the Israel War Room. But first, Steve Easy says, have you heard anything new going on in Lebanon? Seems quiet lately. And yes, there is not a lot of media coverage going on right now with Lebanon. I think in particular, you would have to do like I'm sure there is activity going on, but you know how the media cycle works. I'm sure you're obviously well aware of it. But I'm sure that there is some shit going down, but it hasn't really been discussed. So I would have to like specifically look up Lebanese news and what's happening over there in Lebanon. But yeah,
as they said over the weekend,
I haven't
the
heard
Iranian
much.
terror regime sentenced 8 more protesters to death. Now, the Israel War Room posting a few photos there of
That's right,
those
Joker.
protesters,
That's true.
also listing
True.
out their names. And I'm looking here, some of them very, very young. In fact, most of them are. You have a 19-year-old there. They went on to say, "Free Iran from the Islamic terrorist regime." For folks out there, can you kind of explain really what's going on when it comes to these executions and also public executions where people can see them?
This angle is probably the most devastating of them all when you're talking about the situation in Iran. So I remember vividly growing up, and this is something I witnessed even when I was a child in Tehran, that public executions were there, of course, to terrorize the public, to send a clear message that this is the fate of dissidents.
So there was, this is according to Israel, right? But over the weekend, the Iranian terror regime sentenced 8 more protesters to death. That's crazy.
They're public hangings, effectively. And you brought up the age of these
I
protests.
wonder if they're actually public hangings, or are they just gonna kill these people? I wonder if they do make a big big thing about it to set an example, right? Like they made an example out of these people or whatever. But it's sick.
It's quite shocking. And in a lot of cases, these individuals were arrested when they were under 18, and the regime waits a year or two until they're technically adults, and that's when they
Wow. And what he's getting at is some of, these protesters that are under 18 years old, some of them 17, 16, whatever the case is. And as soon as, they get arrested, they detain them, and then they charge them when they turn 18 or 19 or whatever the case is. So yeah, that's crazy.
Execute them. So this way, the regime has enough plausible deniability, claiming that they only execute adults, whereas in reality, many of them were arrested as minors for something as simple as protesting. I think.
Oh yeah, Pablo, Tusi, or however you say it, his Tausi or Tusi, whatever. Yes, I follow him every day. Actually, he is definitely somebody I use in my list of things to confirm the reports that I'm reading. He does a very good job of reporting the facts of what's happening with Iran, with the Middle East in general, but he's very good at it too. So I do got to give him credit, and absolutely, I do pay attention to him every day.
People in the Iranian diaspora, if not all of them, have one way lost a loved one during either the massacres of early January or the crackdowns after. And the last note on that is, goes back to how the regime reappointed the same judiciary head. Now, of course, the regime institutionalizes these executions by using the same and recycling the same individuals. And in this case, the head of judiciary, a person named Ejei, continues to really be the most brutal.
Yes, it is overtime theoretically, but it's not going to be a long overtime. So that's why I'm not making a big spectacle of it. You know what I mean?
Head of quote unquote judiciary. And I have to put that in quote because there's no justice in this context. And what's really notable is that oftentimes they actually even put the lawyers themselves on trial and sometimes execute them as well.
And this is the latest news. That's why I can tell you guys that, because this is the latest right now. So this is only coming out about an hour ago, right before we started the live stream.
So there again, there's no due process by any means, and the more paranoid the regime becomes, the more it crackdowns internally, which is why it's concerning to hear that this administration indirectly has implied that there has been either regime change or behavior change. So far, not only have we not seen that, we see a more paranoid regime further employing the old tactics of mass killing of its own people that are the only existential threat to the Islamic Republic.
And we're going to talk a little bit
more.
Okay,
so they asked a question up here I want to see.
Not only from the...
Look, they said this is a poll where they're showing it to their audience, and people take that QR code and then they vote live while it's live at the moment. And the question is, should the U.S. resume strikes on Iran? Let's see what the result of that is. About 90-10. Of yes to no. Wow, that's a pretty crazy. People they're understanding what's happening here. I think people are being realistic.
For regime change without securing its outcome, and that's going to be crucial as we look at the Islamic Republic, because on every angle you look at, what the president did was so courageous because he wanted to resolve.
What's up, Hardwire, my man? Good morning to you, by the way.
The Iranian issue without postponing it or appeasing it like his predecessors. So I think millions inside Iran are eyeing this situation. Of course, average Americans are, people in the region. I think we all want a final resolve to this issue. And as we've seen with the regime, behavior change is not on the table. So if we cannot secure anything meaningful, and by meaningful I mean actually dismantling their nuclear program and ensuring that the regime does not have control over the Strait of Hormuz, amongst other things. If we cannot secure these objectives, then really comes down to the systemic transfer of power in Tehran. So it's the nature of how we're going to engage the Islamic Republic and not the war itself that really, I think, is concerning the average American, policymakers, people in Europe, people in the Middle East, and of course, Iranians themselves.
We heard from Iran's
Man, this is a bummer. Wait, let me hear what Josh is just about to say.
Minister, and I kind of mentioned this off the top here, but he essentially said that the U.S. needs to stop its threats because if they don't, the talks will not happen. There will be no negotiations. So issuing a threat.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, we're the United States right now is not like, for instance, we're not sending in drones or attacking fucking ships in the Strait right now, like you guys are right now. So, I mean, you're justifying it by Trump or anybody in the administration for issuing types of threats to get you to move along. It's a dirty cycle. It's just the same circle that just keeps fucking spinning. And it's terrible. It's a terrible, like, we have to break these kind of chains, man.
To essentially say, don't threaten us. What is kind of the motive behind that? Are they trying to essentially appear like they have the upper hand over the U.S.?
No, they actually will do the damage and then play victim.
That's the intent, whether it's internal or external. Great source of legitimacy.
They're really good at poking the bear, and then when the bear attacks and fucks them up, then they cry wolf. I mean, it's weird how this shit happens.
These authoritarian regimes, and Iran is no exception, is to project power. Putin does it. CCP does the same thing. North Korea is notorious for that. But that doesn't mean it's their strategy behind closed doors. And as J.D. Vance noted a few weeks ago, on one hand, regime officials appeared very upset at the prospects of maybe renewed threats, but they still maintained negotiations on the technical side, which means you're still dealing with elements that are, not to call them pragmatists, but still survivalists. They want this regime to survive, and they'll do whatever it takes. At the same time, it's a balancing act because we need to look at the internal backlash against the regime. You see hardliners, reformists, people that were once part of the hardcore supporter of this regime, now doubting whether the Islamic Republic agreeing to an MOU was actually in favor of the regime's interests. So a lot of people took to the streets, chanted against the foreign ministry, like you said, chanted against the head of parliament, who's also an IRGC member, accusing them, and same with the president, accused them of compromising or providing too many concessions to the United States. So because of that,
well, yeah, I mean, we definitely it's funny how they play it on the Iranian side, like the IRGC, how they'll claim the MOU is too lenient on the United States, which is a hilarious take. Because if you actually decipher the point by point, it is not in the United States' complete favor, by any stretch of the means. So anyways, listen, we're following this moment by moment, every day. This is even on my quote unquote day off. I'm still following, obviously, to be able to cover Saturday, Sunday, Monday news when I start on Monday. Of course, it takes being able to research this and continue watching it. And anyways, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for allowing us to be doing what we're doing here Monday through Friday. And then, of course, Saturday morning for members only. I can't thank you guys enough. Listen, make sure you guys hit that like button on the way out. Double tap that screen if you would. I very much appreciate y'all. And we'll see you guys here tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness as we go down this truth-seeking adventure as we always have. And listen, God bless you guys. Much love, honor, respect. And we'll see you guys very soon.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar,